Now back to the Brian Zimmerman Show. Here's Brian.
Hi, everyone. It's Brian. Welcome back to another episode of the Brian Zimmerman Show. With me today is the front man and lead singer of our band, the Zimms. It's the one and only Sean Finnerty.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome to the show. Now, we last did this. We sat down last time in October 95. We went to my radio school in Trenton.
I had a lot more hair back then.
And we had a mock radio station called 95 Radio WASB.
I remember
and
that.
We went down there in my grandmother's 85 Honda Accord hatchback. And it was kind of interesting way back then. We came, after we did the show, we came back to my place and we recorded a few songs. One of the songs was a new song you introduced called Happy for Now.
I remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
It was an instrumental. You were on rhythm guitar.
Yep.
Talk us through that song. How did that come about? Do you remember how you wrote that? Because I
That-
never heard the lyrics to that song.
I think I have them in my folder over there. That was actually a breakup song, believe it or not, about sort of being on the other side of a breakup and how you sort of pretend to be happy.
Oh, yeah?
So happy for now. That's what that song's about.
Never knew that was...
Yeah. We should dust that off.
It's on the list. I just never heard... I played some lead on there. I remember we actually have it recorded.
Kind of vaguely remember how that chorus goes too. So yeah, we should dust that one off.
It was an E.
It was an E, as are most of my tunes.
We met back, our first meeting, met back in February 95.
Was it 95?
And it was an infamous story. It's actually three stories. The first story was you saw our ad in Sam Ash.
Sam Ash, yep, the paper with the pull tag.
Pull tag was I think it was our drummer at the time, Brandon, had the ad. And what happened? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I did tell my kids that story though the other day because they asked how did I get into this band, and I said I went to Sam Ash, saw the thing, and pulled the thing off, like the little paper thing. They're like, oh, like the lawnmower guys, because like in our grocery stores they have the things you can hire people to do the lawnmower. So yeah, I was like, yeah, back in the day you'd go to the music store.
Yep.
And if you wanted to find other artists, there was no internet. There was no...
And the Aquarian. It was the Aquarian?
Yeah, Aquarian and Sam Ash Music. So, yeah, you go there, you pull the number, you call the number, and you talk to some random person on the other side of the line. And it turned out to be...
Well, the story was you lost the first ad.
Oh.
And you went back another day, and you pulled another ad down. It was the same ad.
I do remember that now,
So,
that you mention it.
And we talked about it last time. You said it was fated to happen.
I do remember that now. Yes.
And it was meant
So
to
funny.
be.
That is so funny.
And the other thing we auditioned you, our drummer and I, and the funny thing about that was you never sang at your audition,
Probably because I was nervous.
which was kind of weird. But
Weird for a singer not to sing. Yeah, that's kind of weird.
but we accepted you in the band. You know, back then we didn't have metrics or any sort of, bar that says, this is the type of vocalist that we're looking for, or this is, it was, because we were together for 7 months trying to find somebody, and then you came along, and,
You take what you can get.
yeah. And then, so the third story is after the audition, you followed me home.
I do remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Now, something I would never do. I don't know what I was thinking back then, but I mean, somebody following me home. You wanted to see where I lived because we were going to start rehearsing, and so it was. I guess it was just so natural that come on, we're leaving now,
Yeah.
And it was something that, today wouldn't. Why would somebody want to follow
I
me?
do remember that.
You know?
I do remember that.
But yeah, and so you were the one who actually set the standard for the songs. Now, do you remember the first two songs you introduced to us?
Back then, geez.
So it was Quite Aware and Out.
I remember it being Quite Aware.
walk us through Quite Aware. What is it about? Do you remember how you wrote it? What was your...
Yeah, that is a being pissed off at your parents song. It's pretty evident in the lyrics, but there were always disagreements with parental figures in my life about, hey, what should I be spending my time on? Should I be, should I be studying more? Should I be doing more sports? Should I be messing around with this music stuff?
Well, I heard a different story back in the day, and maybe we can clear that up. I thought you originally said that you saw a talk show, and there was a boy on the talk show, and his father wanted him to do good in school or something, or in life.
Yeah.
So that was kind of
It's all sort of related. Yeah, it's like, I don't think back then I was comfortable enough applying it to my own life. Like I always, you know how it is when you don't want to look inward. It's easier to look at something else outside and say, hey, I'm writing about that. But in reality, you're writing about you. That's really what it boils down to.
And what about Out? You remember?
Yeah, I think Out was just sort of like just being an angry 20-year-old. Probably couldn't get girls, and I wrote a lot of those sorts of tunes where it was always like, I can't express exactly what the heck I'm trying to say, so I'm just going to write a song that sort of beats around the edges of what I'm trying to say.
And we play those two songs to this day now in the Zimms.
Yeah, and I think they sound better now than they did then.
Quite Aware was an instant hit, instant favorite of mine as soon as I heard it. And I remember me and Brandon driving down Main Street in Boundbrook back in the day, windows down, it was a summer day, windows down, blasting Quite Aware through the streets. It was, and we were digging it. And
That's
yeah.
awesome.
And I remember asking you the last time we sat down, do you think you're going to ever write songs better than Quite Aware, better than Out? And your response was without a doubt. So now we bring you to a song that we play now, a new song called Communication Breakthrough, which is even better. Is another one of my personal favorites, which is kind of a sister song, cousin song of Quite Aware, in my opinion. Walk us through that song. What is it about?
That's more of an adult song. So I wrote that probably a few years ago. Originally, as we become adults, we have kids, we have relationships with significant others, people at work you have to talk to constantly. And one of my great frustrations in my personal life, in my career, or whatever, is when you have those people that you could say the same thing 20 times over, and you're either talking past each other or you're just not listening to one another.
Right.
And that just at that particular time when I was writing that song, there was a lot of that going on in my professional life as well as my personal life. And it just sort of, usually that's what leads to a tune with me, is that I get to a boiling point and I'm like, you know what, God damn it, like I'm going to write this down.
Right.
And that's, again, pretty evident in the lyrics.
Well, you accomplished that. You said you were going to do it and you did it. How has your songwriting changed since those earlier songs?
Early days, it was, and you'll probably remember this because we did some of this together, like scratch pad, notebook, mostly lyrics, and then just like a rough idea for a hook or a melody in my head. With communication, it was rough guitar line, a little bit of a bass idea that I sort of built the bridge around, and then there was this chorus idea I had, which I put some wacky keyboard part to. So I'm starting to use a little bit more instruments to just help flesh out the idea. A lot of times these days, we were talking about this rehearsal the other night, I'll start with just a bass line because it's easy to plunk out a bass line for me, either on the keyboard or, grab a guitar and just play it on the E string or something. For whatever reason, that locks in the chord progression, and then it's easy to sing on top of that. So these days, I'll write a part or two, and then, hand it over to you and let you write a real guitar part. But
well, one of the beauties of our collaboration efforts, especially back in the day, we call them Finnerman songs. Get Down to Me and the Untitled, where I had just guitar stuff, music. I couldn't for my life come up with lyrics. And you had the brilliant idea or whatever of marrying your lyrics to those songs, which made them what they are. And I wish we can continue to write more songs like that. If I wrote lyrics to those songs, nobody would want to listen to them. But
I mean, that's a problem for me too, because I we were just before we recorded this looking through, I'm flipping through my book of stuff. My bar for myself as a lyric writer has gotten higher over the years. Because I mean, if you look back when we're kids, you write lyrics and you're like, you know,
Right.
wow, some of them are cringy. These, you know, you read
Right.
them now. So you know, in our 40s, I aspire to write somewhat better lyrics. I'm still not a great lyricist, but you know, I think it's a little harder to just sit down and start banging stuff out. So I think we'll have an opportunity to figure that out.
And you mentioned a couple band meetings a while about how great we played some of those earlier songs back in the day. The chemistry, or it was just three of us. We didn't have a bass player, but you know, the drummer, me and you, we kind of, for whatever reason, we had that. We locked in.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first auditioned Brandon, after his audition, I says, well, I am going to look for other drummers. I wasn't convinced yet. He didn't really sell me on the first. Well, I could play more. I could do more stuff, he said.
Yeah.
But and the quick funny story was, Paul, when the first drummer I played with, some of the older songs, this guy Paul was the original drummer, which Brandon had to learn some of the material. And Brandon kind of was a little bit annoyed and kind of didn't like to copy Paul. And he mentioned to me one day, he says, you know, you should get a drum machine. And so
I remember you telling me that story.
Next rehearsal, he came in and I had the musician's friend catalog opened up to the drum machine page. I says, I'm getting a drum machine. It was a joke.
Yeah.
But
that's funny.
you know, which brings us to, you know, our drummer now, Chris, which is named after the band. We're both Zimmermans.
Which I thought was funny.
Yeah, everybody thinks, are you guys brothers?
Are you brothers? No.
Chris reminded when Chris and I first met. I don't know if you remember our drummer Mike, who replaced Brandon for a short period of time. Mike was below Brandon, but for some reason he added something to the music. There was something there, right? And Chris kind of reminded me of Mike in a sense that, hey, him and I, Chris and I both started out on the same level. I hadn't played with a band in years. My last band I played with, or music, was in 1998. And I was trying to find, believe it or not, it sounds silly, I was trying to find clones of you and Brandon, and I threw up my hands at the end of 98, and I said, I can't find anybody. So, then I got married, and I didn't want to focus on a band. And then I got divorced in 2014. So then I says, the door's open for a band. 2015, I met Chris, and we just kind of clicked at the end of the day. We kind of, like I said, we both started at the same level. And I think it's remarkable that he's been in the band for 9 years now, longer than anybody that I've ever played with combined. Now, you were in the band back in the day 9 months, which is hard to believe.
It is hard to believe.
But you're in the band now with the Zimms for, what, 5.5 years?
Something like that, yeah.
And,
how does that back then feel like?
I don't know. I mean, 9 months.
Is that right?
It is right.
9 months?
February. Our last meeting together was at that audition in Trenton that we talked about.
Oh my!
Like, why did we go to Trenton? But I think it was on the way to the radio school. But we auditioned in November '95, a bass player and a drummer, you were actually on rhythm guitar. You had a white Strat, I think.
Yeah.
And but we kind of off and on, you didn't want to. We couldn't find anybody. That was the problem.
Yeah.
We always had this curse, right? And
I was in college, and
we could never find a full band. I always think of Lee Nelson, who back in the day was the bass player that we always wanted to have. He stayed with the band for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But we could never find a bass player, but now we have this guy Mike, who's a phenomenal bass player.
He's a great player.
He fits in with the band very well. He's very, I would say, technical player.
Yeah.
He knows his song. He knows his way in and out of the songs.
Look, any guy who shows up with a fretless bass to rehearsal and nails it,
right?
That guy can play,
right? And he kind of brings what was been missing with these songs.
Yeah, I agree.
That no other bass player could do. And we've had our share of bass players in the Zimms. We had Adam. We had Chris Bass. We had a couple people that just really couldn't really fit the bill. But Mike definitely, he definitely, knocks it out of the park. What are your thoughts on his playing?
Yeah, same. I mean, he's clearly, easily the best bass player we've had. I still can't believe that was only 9 months. In my mind, that was
still
like,
back
in,
in
in my mind that was like 5 years.
It doesn't seem like 9 months.
But like when you're kids, right? Time just goes by in a different pace than
Do
it
you
goes by now.
remember a story? We were supposed to back in the day go on tour with a Rutgers band called Crunchy Lettuce.
I do remember.
What happened with that?
I don't remember.
We're getting so excited. We're going on tour with this band
Crunchy Lettuce. I don't remember what happened with that, but probably best for everyone that we didn't tour with Crunchy Lettuce.
What were they? A punk band, rock band?
Yeah, I think they were a punk band. That's right. Crunchy Lettuce.
Wanted to get
How do you remember this stuff?
I got a good memory. I wanted to get back with Chris because Chris and I started working on what we call Mr. Ken songs, which didn't have any drums to them.
Yeah.
And there were songs that when we talked about you're going to write better songs than Quite Aware. Well, I had a goal to write songs better than Where Did I Go Wrong. And
When did you write those? Did you start writing those in that gap period?
After the band quit, after the band left.
Yeah, so like in that.
So it was kind of the 96, 90, end of 95, 96, 97 period. So
those are original ideas from back in the day.
Right, that was supposed to be what we were going to work on next.
Oh, okay.
And
so you dusted those off, and then they became
right. So we kind of picked up where Benevolent was supposed to continue, and but there was no drums, and Chris kind of phenomenally wrote all the drums to those songs, and made them what they are today. Like Full of It, I can't imagine that. During my solo, that little drum fill that he does, I can't imagine that song without that fill. I mean, that fill makes that song.
No, Full of It's easily my favorite Zimms song.
Which, by the way, was originally written about Brandon.
Which is fun.
Which is interesting. Funny. And now it has many people that it's about.
Yeah.
Throughout, since it was written in 97. There's many people that I say they're full of it.
Sounds like the... Sounds like all the songs I write about my ex-girlfriends.
Yeah. So we plan on going into the studio in July. We're going to make finally put some of these songs professionally recorded, get an album out.
Hallelujah.
Let's talk about that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm excited to, I've done some recording with other groups in the interim between we were in these benevolent iterations together. And it always feels great to take the song and finally give it the recording it deserves, so that it's, recorded the way it's supposed to be, and you can always listen to it. You don't have to worry about it. You can put it online. You can have it as a disc, whatever you want to listen to. So for me, mostly it feels like it's time to just get that stuff down the way it's supposed to be, and then move on to the next batch. We've got how many tunes in the catalog now?
Some of these songs are going to be 30 years old next year.
I know.
Can't believe it.
And
so they're finally going to get their due.
We probably got 40 more in the
book we got to work on. We always say we'll never run out of material. Yeah. We were just listening before. We had a writing session, you and I, and we were playing "Taken," a new song, and when we played it, you were the original. You were singing a little slow speed, but then on your phone you sped it up, and you saw my smile from ear to ear, and we both were like, "We can't wait to play it as a band. This is going to be another song that's probably better than Full of It."
Yep. 155 BPM.
And I think and that's, I think, is the goal for a band, is to keep outdoing ourselves, right?
Totally.
They say the first record is good, but the second record is really where you do or die.
That's the measure of a good band.
And I'm looking forward to, and the songs really, they have a history, obviously, that is kind of remarkable, and we've played throughout the years.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think it's. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for us to finally get on the map as a band.
Yeah. Perhaps
maybe and do some live shows here and there. Maybe kind of promote the record. Not sure what we're going to call the record though.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Finnerman. Yeah. The best of. I don't know. Well,
Draw names out of a hat. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Any last final comments before we let you go, Mr.
No, just good luck with the podcast, and
thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure having you on.
All right.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Hey, this is Brian. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.